I've tracked my expenses for over 3 years now. Every month I would sit down, create a budget, go over it with my wife since we've been married, and then I would make sure to track our spending every 1 to 2 weeks just to see where we were and how much we had left to spend over the course of the month. And honestly, that's worked for us really well. We really haven't gone over budget much, if at all, but last month was really busy and I wanted to do this experiment. What would happen if I didn't even think about tracking my expenses for a month? Unfortunately, I'm just a human, so of course I thought about it. But we didn't track our expenses for the whole month of June, and I still haven't looked at them yet. But here are the rules I laid out for myself and what I'm scared of now. Rule number 1 was no peeking. I only allowed myself to look at our bank account to make sure that it was still positive, and our credit cards to make sure that they were still paid, and we were gonna have a fee for not making a payment. Rule number 2, no budget. This was a little harder to get by with because our budget pretty much rolls over from one month to the next, but we did have some variable expenses that came up this month, like my sister's birthday, that we would have budgeted for that we didn't because rule number 2, no budget. Rule number 3, just buy it. This is kind of what everyone wants to hear in life, I feel. But we essentially allowed money to not be an object in our purchasing decision. Normally we don't buy clothes. Carissa bought a lot of swimsuits that she returned most of them. I bought some new shorts because I've been needing some new shorts. We got food out a lot more than we normally do, and we even got some Starbucks. Sorry, Graham.
Oh, this is so bad. That's not funny to me. I would be ashamed of myself if I ever did that.
Obviously, this can be very detrimental. Let me explain why it might not be, but I still don't know because I haven't checked our expenses yet. My wife and my philosophy on money isn't very complicated. We'd rather buy what we need and use money to work towards our goals, like being able to build out and live in this van, than buy something here and there for $10 or $20 if we don't actually need it. So I was very interested to see if we took away the constraint of our budget and our tracking of our expenses, if we would still be as frugal as we were before, or even though we're so intentional with how we spend, or at least we say we're intentional with how we spend, if we would still end up spending more than we have to spend. And a quick caveat here. It's no secret that if you take a look at my wallet, I got 3 credit cards right here. No free credit card numbers for you guys today, but these credit cards are the only way that you can actually spend more than what you have to spend. So if you have a debit card and a bank account, this really wouldn't be as stressful of a challenge. And I guess it's not really a challenge because I feel like this is how most people operate their lives. But as someone who's tracked my expenses for so long, this definitely was a little bit anxiety ridden. Just a little bit though, because I was too busy to even feel those emotions, which is not a good thing. I'm working through that with my therapist, don't worry. The thing about credit cards too though, is that first off, we like credit cards, but also we've racked up hundreds of dollars of points in credit cards. I think right now we're around $600 or $700. And that was one of the reasons why I was more comfortable doing this. On top of that, we have an owner pay account that has a little bit of a surplus in it, which is how we get paid from our business, but we'll get to that in a second. First, let's break down our expenses from the last month and see how much we were over or under from where we should have been. The first step for me is going to be to open up our bank account, our joint bank account. Then I got a couple options. I can either write it all down on paper with some fun pens that I stole from my wife and write down all of my expenses from the last month. I would just have to make sure, since today is July 1st, that I discount this transaction from Spotify because that goes into our July budget, which we might be making depending on how well this goes. And then this payment right here for Carissa's work, because even though that's paid for last month's work, we budget that for the next month upcoming, so that's technically a July payment for us. Everything else we can write down the expenses of and just put it straight onto paper, but I don't want to do that because then I would have to do the math and calculate it. So instead of that, you can just come here, start below that payment, copy all of it, head over to Google Sheets or Excel if you want, and then you can paste, and then from here, you can categorize all of your transactions or just sum it all up. Equals sum, done. And if this is your first time tracking your expenses or thinking about doing that, you might want to do that. That's one of the easiest way to track your expenses and see where you spent money over the last month. But even then, do I really need to categorize my expenses for this month? Probably not. It's really just a simple equation. How much money do I have versus how much money do I owe? And then I'll see whether or not I actually have money left in my bank account. Problem is, I know for a fact I'm not going to, even on a normal month. It's gonna look a little bit different for my wife and I than a lot of people because we have to pay ourselves out of our business. And because we want to keep investing in our business, we try to take out as little as we can right now from our owner pay account, but normally we'll take about $1,125 from our owner pay account. At least that's how much we budget for. Normally we take less, and hopefully we'll take less this month, but that's how much we allow. Meaning that my hope is that when we subtract out our credit cards from what we have in our bank account, it's more than negative $1,125. But even then, it's still not that simple. Why is money never so simple? Chris and I booked an Airbnb actually for the week that this is gonna be posted to celebrate the end of the business quarter. But we plan on paying for that like we do a lot of our vacations from our credit card points. We're gonna have to subtract that out of our equation. And then one other thing that we have to worry about is returns. For instance, Chris has been buying a lot of bathing suits, trying to find one that she likes the most. And so we've been getting a lot of stuff from Amazon, but also returning it, but it's in the process of being returned, so that money's gonna be in our bank account, but it's not there yet. So we'll have to account for that as well. So let's really quickly make a sheet: bank balance minus July income plus July expenses. Then we have 2 credit cards that we use for personal use. One is the Chase Freedom Unlimited, and there might also be some pending stuff there, so we'll say Chase Freedom pending. And then we also have the Chase Sapphire Preferred. And then we need to also add back in returns. We need to add back in any July expenses on the credit cards. And we're gonna add back in the Airbnb that we purchased with points or are going to pay for with points. I haven't done that because I haven't want to look at our expenses yet. Our bank balance is $32.69 July income, we're gonna have to subtract out of that, which is going to be negative $229.37. And then we're gonna add back in that $11.26. Then I'm gonna go head over to Chase. I'm honestly really scared. I feel like we way overspent this month, but we'll talk to Carissa about it at the end of this. The other thing too is that this card is used for Carissa's work, so I'm only gonna include the things that actually would have been charges. So it would have been $15, $16.72, and I'm just not gonna include the Airbnb. We're just gonna add $31.72. Now for our main card, oh yikes, $23.20.62, and then it's pending on it, $59. But Carissa's gonna pay for that out of the profit that her business has earned. We're not gonna worry about that. $35.16 for Trader Joe's and $12.76 for Marble Slab Creamery. That was delicious. So $47.92. Oof, so much food here. Holy crap! Look at this. Amazon and food. That was our life this month apparently. Yeah, I'm really scared. Equals sum. Is that? No way! I mean, I hate to say only $100, but I was thinking it was gonna be way more. Really cool. I gotta be missing something. Am I missing something? Oh, yes. There are some things that I'm missing. So every month we give a certain amount and then we put a certain amount into our account for giving. And then we also tithe on our income. Oh, that's not good. Never mind. It's not good. Am I forgetting about some sort of income? We gotta add $360 and then also $50 for life insurance. I'm gonna track my expenses for the month. I'm confused. That's a lot of money. Bringing out the big guns, the second monitor. I'm just gonna actually do it in every dollar like we normally would. I have a video about that if you're interested. Oh, I forgot about the cash that I have, which is $5, but every bit helps apparently. Oh my gosh, I'm at the 10th? Holy crap, we spent money. I wish I would have just paid this instead of going through and doing all of this. Holy cow. 75 transactions. Negative 1635.89, so we were off by about $500. Do I even have that much in that account? We don't even have that much in our owner pay account right now. It's gonna be close even with our owner pay cushion and our credit card points. Let me show you the categorization and how much we're over and under in each of them. We're gonna have to be really tight. I'm interested to hear Carissa's thoughts and to share this with her. So Carissa came home. Fun line, or you don't want to hear the results of the month line.
I don't want to hear the results and fun.
Before I go over everything, I just want to know like what you thought about this month.
Overall, for like not budgeting.
Yeah, not tracking our expenses, not budgeting, nothing like that.
I hated it. I then had to like think about it much more consciously. I feel like you weren't as much.
I wasn't at all. So I put the over under for where we were on each of our items. Or on each of our categories. Normally, we would take $1,125 out of our business. Where do you think we are this month?
I feel like we spent a lot this month. 500.
500 extra?
Yeah.
You're off by $10.
510?
Yep. Categories.
For over under.
Tithe and giving, nothing. The electric, rent, maintenance, and gas were the only things that were like positive. I'm kind of surprised on gas. We did not drive very much this but we're $80 over on groceries, $16.18 over on coffee shops. Eating out, we are over by $298.47.
We ate out so much this month.
Discretionary, we're over by $21. Personals, over by $8. Date, over by $4. I had to add a category so that we could be over even more. Amazon and miscellaneous, this includes like Target and stuff. I also included all of the refunds and all of the pending refunds here. So, yeah.
What? No.
Yeah. Do you have stuff that you haven't requested a return yet?
I mean, I have one thing.
We're going to need to pull $1,635 out of somewhere. But that's more than what we have in our owner pay account. But I have a couple questions for you. More about this month and about this experience, because this is a really interesting experiment, I felt. Because I felt like, oh, well, we'll probably spend pretty similarly. And then it did not happen. Would you want to do this again?
No.
Is there an income level that you feel like we would be at where that would change your mind?
No.
Not even
No.
making $10,000 a month, you wouldn't
No.
want to? Wow.
The thing that would have to change is we would just have to communicate better about what we're spending and when. And normally we do everything together, and this month we are very independent of each other.
Yeah, that's true. I was going to say any negatives, but I'm not. I'm going to say any positives.
I feel like you were less stressed.
It's kind of like the ignorance is bliss kind of deal. Like, I don't want to have to deal with it. I probably seemed less stressed. And in some ways I was, and I talked about this a little bit as well. I was just so busy that I didn't even have time to feel those things. Didn't allow myself. And I told them that I'm working through that with my therapist, so they're proud of me. Since I normally track expenses, how did this change the way that you do things in this month since I'm not being uptight about it? That's kind of a bold assumption. Do you feel like I'm uptight about it?
I think you get unnecessarily stressed.
How so? I'm not disagreeing. I just want to know how so.
You'll look at our budget and go, oh, we only have this amount of money for XYZ. Like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, we can make that work. I feel like I know how to make it work pretty easily spending-wise, but you still get stressed out.
That's interesting. I think a lot of that is just our relational dynamic. Like when I was in college, I had like almost no budget, and I didn't necessarily feel stressed out about it. This is like something that's wrong in our relationship with me. I feel like I need to allow for you to have the freedom that you want with our money. It's not like me giving you money. It's not me financing your life. But because I prefer to track our expenses and you prefer not to track our expenses, it feels like I'm kind of the gatekeeper, and I don't want to put limits on you to do that. And so when I'm like, oh no, there's only $20 left for eating out, you're like, okay, like whatever, we just won't eat out. And I'm like, no, I want you to be able to eat out if you want to eat out. And so I think that that's a lot of how it plays out. I can say that. I still don't feel it, especially in the moment. Compared to the normal level of freedom that you feel with our money. So think about that now, like when we were budgeting. Yeah, compared to that freedom that you were feeling in a cage, being a bird, clipped wings, what level of freedom did you feel this month?
I think one area that I felt freer was to buy things that I needed, but like we don't necessarily budget. So like clothes or things like that where there was a really good deal, where normally I feel like we have to have like a discussion about it, and then I feel a little guilty because then it's coming from somewhere else. I felt a lot freer to like make that purchase and it be okay. I also felt a lot more anxiety over every time we spent money.
So moving forward from this experience that we've had now, how would you change the way that we handle our money or communicate about it? Or what would you want me to do differently, since I'm the one who does a lot of that in our relationship?
I think it might be better if we just have bigger buckets. I think that would help me feel a little freer. Like I need a new leggings. If I wanted to buy that, like there's a bigger bucket to pull that from.
Where from the budget that we currently have, which is all of these categories, what would we bucket together?
I feel like if we put more of a lifestyle one, like discretionary and personals and gas, maybe. I don't know.
Gas.
I don't know.
That makes sense. And that's how I think about it a lot of times, but it's not how it's expressed in our budget. But I definitely think today I'm going to make the budget and start tracking our expenses for next month.
Thank God.
I honestly don't find it cumbersome to track expenses, especially now that we've been doing it for so long. But where our income is right now, especially, I'm not comfortable doing anything like this again. There's just no margin for error.
I really think like the most stressful part is that we just are both making such little money right now. That there's even like we don't have the room to like just buy whatever we want without having to spend less somewhere else.
For reference, our take-home pay together is right about $36,000 per year as a couple, paying $1,300 in rent every month in Orlando, Florida. But I think also one of the things that I learned from this experience is why it's so tempting to live this way for so many people. Not for you. But for me, because I normally do the tracking of our expenses, not having to do that and just like not thinking about it, tomorrow's problem is a really tempting kind of headspace to live in. Especially tempting because I wasn't taking the time to deal with those emotions properly. But I can definitely see how that would be tempting for so many people, and like I don't think there's any shame in that. But if you want to kind of start on your journey, I do have a playlist of videos that'll help you to set up your budget, your tracking of your expenses, starting to invest eventually, and figure out an emergency fund. It's definitely not the easiest way to do things, but it's well worth it, and you will thank yourself for it down the road.
I used to not track my expenses at all. I feel like maybe it was even like PTSD when I felt like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm spending. I don't know what I have. That like crippling anxiety. And I just forgot how much like freedom there is to know that I know what I'm spending and I know I have it and we're okay.
You have a video you want to push to the people?
I think if you're interested in like, if you are married, you are like, how do you even start those conversations? We have a video of where we sat down and went through our monthly budget. So if you're trying to figure out what does that dynamic look like, I think that's a fun one.
That's an old one.
I'm also in it, so.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, now you got to choose between which one we recommend. Peace.